I should not be even using this phone. By my own standards, the OnePlus 15 breaks almost every rule I have for a flagship. It's not compact, it's not lightweight, and its cameras aren't the best you can get for the price. This was never supposed to be my daily driver, and yet 3 months later, somehow it is. In today's video, I'm exactly going to tell you why. Let's start with the thing that this phone is clearly built around. Performance. Almost everything you do on the OnePlus 15 feels effortless. Like, it's just satisfying to even go through the app launch experience. And that's because of the very deliberate combination of 3 of the fastest components you can get in a smartphone right now: the chip, the RAM, and the storage. And you'll notice it the most when the phone is under pressure. For context, this is Sub-Transit Drive, currently one of the most demanding mobile games out there. In our studio tests, the OnePlus 15 consistently delivers higher frame rates than other non-Pro flagships. And it does that without external cooling, without bypass charging. That matters because when this phone first launched, it couldn't do that. Back then, the same game would crash after a few minutes. The chip was clearly tuned aggressively with a safety cutoff that would shut the app down once temperatures climbed, unless you attached an external cooler. The 15 now sustains high performance without crashing, even in long demanding sessions. And that alone makes it feel far more dependable without needing extra accessories hanging off the back. Now yes, it does get hot, but not because it has a heat management problem. In fact, it runs very slightly cooler than other non-Pro flagships while pushing higher frame rates. Where thermals really become noticeable is during continuous 4K 30fps recording for around 30 minutes. And here the 15 stays cooler than the competition. But performance alone isn't what makes this phone feel so fluid. The other and arguably bigger reason is the software. It's a clean, well-optimized experience. There are almost no ads. Almost. That word is important. But keeping that aside, the animations are so well-tuned. Everything just works. I also noticed how they kind of tried to implement liquid glass or something similar without just going crazy with it. And the haptics are just so strong and so well-tuned, you're going to notice every time you type, select text, set a timer, scroll hard, or even lock and unlock the phone. It's addictively good. Pretty hard to switch to a different device. Other than that, you also get a ton of customization options. I have been using these single-colored dark icons for a long time, and ColorOS, or OxygenOS in this case, is one of the very few system software that actually does it correctly. Still, one of my biggest frustrations with almost every flagship right now is the AI side of things. We're seeing progress, sure, but it's mostly in the flashy areas. While something genuinely useful like PDF viewers get almost no attention, the experience is still bare bones. No AI features here, no smart interaction, or any meaningful tools. And that's exactly where UPDF steps in, who is also the sponsor of today's video. So this right here is a 385-page PDF. Normally that's a nightmare. But inside UPDF, I can open it and immediately start asking questions, summarizing sections, translating content, or getting explanations directly from the document itself. It's powered by GPT-5 and DeepSeek R1, so the responses are fast and genuinely useful. And one feature I keep coming back to is this. You can turn an entire PDF into a mind map, which is incredibly helpful when you're dealing with dense or complex topics. And it's not just about AI, they also come with their own cloud storage. And because one UPDF license can be used across 4 platforms, Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, I can access all of my PDFs even from my Mac. I also get full control over the files. I can edit text directly, annotate, rearrange pages, insert or delete them, and even move or replace images. At this point, it barely feels like a static PDF anymore. If I need even more flexibility, I can convert it into Word, Excel, or even a long image. And with built-in OCR, text inside images of a PDF becomes fully selectable and searchable. There's a lot more here, from signatures to password protection, way too much to cover in this video. So if you're dealing with PDFs regularly, I genuinely recommend trying UPDF. All the links are in the description below, including a limited exclusive discount, so don't miss out. Now, to be fair, OxygenOS does have some genuinely useful AI features built in. The Notes app in particular is excellent. I mentioned this in my first OnePlus video as well. One feature I keep using is the ability to turn raw text into structured tables. It's surprisingly practical. You also get a range of sliders and controls that let you fine-tune the output instead of just spitting out a generic result. The AI tools inside the Photos app are useful too, though they are not perfect yet. The object eraser in particular still has room for improvement. That said, some of the other features here are genuinely impressive. I haven't seen anything quite like them in other system software. I do wish OnePlus had included an AI image expander though. Even bundling it inside the AI Recompose would have made a lot of sense. Next up is the ecosystem. And honestly, this is where Android as a whole is catching up. The Apple ecosystem used to be a major advantage, but that's quickly quickly becoming less of a selling point. Focusing just on OxygenOS, everything works across the two biggest desktop platforms, Windows and Mac. You get file sharing, screen along with app mirroring, clipboard sync, and more. All of them work reliably. My only complaint is the serif font in the desktop app. It just looks bad. Now let's talk about the most controversial part of the OnePlus 15, the cameras. And I'll get this out of the way immediately. If you compare the sensor specs to the OnePlus 13, this is a clear downgrade. I'm not going to defend that, but they're also not a disaster. Where the OnePlus 15 genuinely shines is in the telephoto portrait mode. In fact, it's one of the best in the segment, and it comfortably beats some other phones that are marketed as being camera first, like the X300. Portrait video though is a different story. It's heavily denoised, and in low light that processing really hurts detail and overall image quality. For normal photos, things are much more consistent. And when it comes to video, I actually really liked the processing, especially when you're shooting zoomed footage. I mean, yes, it is not razor sharp, but it's better than other modern flagships. There are more features as well as flaws, but I've largely covered them in this video, while also comparing the phone to the competition, so do give it a watch. Now let's talk about the display, because this is where things have gotten weird. A lot of the noise came from one decision in particular, the shift from a 2K panel down to a 1.5K. I even saw someone comment that it looked like a display from 2010. That's wildly inaccurate. Even if you press this phone right up to your face, you will not be able to pick out individual pixels. This is a sharp, modern, flagship level display. No question about it. And in one important way, it's actually an upgrade. This is now a 165Hz panel. Now, to be clear, you don't get that refresh rate everywhere. Officially, it's limited to certain games. But if you dig deeper into developer settings, you can find this. You can enable 165Hz for select social media apps. It is still in beta, which means support could expand over time, but the difference is immediately noticeable. Instagram in particular feels buttery. Everything is absurdly smooth. The only real downside is an annoying daily notification warning you about potential issues, but in my experience, I've never actually run into any. This phone has quietly also become my go-to device for entertainment. Yes, the display plays a big part, but so do the speakers. They're loud, rich, and genuinely full-bodied. They're not as immersive as Xiaomi or Apple flagships, but this is also an area where OnePlus's direct competitions fall noticeably behind. And in the end of the day, when I want to wind down with all these flagships sitting on the table, this is the phone I instinctively reach for, whether it's movies or gaming. Now I'll talk a bit about connectivity, because the Wi-Fi is a bit more reliable than the other flagships I own, especially when I take the phone downstairs, provided my Wi-Fi is upstairs. This phone is slightly more reliable. Slightly because the other phones work well, but there are very rare speed drops. That has completely stopped ever since I switched to the OnePlus. And about the other things too, I don't have any complaints. The 5G connection and Bluetooth, they all work great. Lastly, I want to mention the battery. It's something that you're absolutely going to love. 7300 mAh is way more than a compact power bank. This phone just refuses to give up. I'm also mentioning a brief detail of the activities to give you a general idea of how long this battery can last when using different apps. And when this massive battery dies, you're covered by the ridiculously fast 120-watt charging speed. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Do like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.